Now, although this looks so great, but again, we are in the business of making things look really good. So there's so many things we can do with Flutter. One of which is we can add gradient to give user interface a little bit of pizzazz, if you will. Okay, let's see how we can do that. So this is where perhaps all of these stacks will make more sense. Because remember, we are returning a full stack and then we have a stack inside of a stack. Why do we do that? Well, we did that because we wanted to be able to add another item inside of this stack. So we have two stacks here. We have one we can't see, which is behind this image. And then on top of this image, we have another stack. So now we're going to add something, in this case, going to be a gradient on top of the first stack. So you can see this very nice gradient showing up on top of this main image here. So you can start seeing that once we are creating this user interface, it's really a matter of understanding what things that I want to show first. How can I put things on top of each other? How can I resize them? How can I make them smaller and so forth, right? So there's a lot of things you can do, but it may take a little bit of thinking in understanding how things are laid out. This is the inner stack and we have the main parent stack. So in this case here, we'll be still inside of the main stack, which that's exactly what we want. So I'm going to put a comma there to separate things, and I'm going to add another container here. Containers are everywhere. All right, for our container here, I'm just going to go straight to decoration. I'm going to create a box decoration. In this case here, I am going to invoke a gradient. Look at that. I can say gradient, and it expects us to pass a gradient object. Now, a gradient object could be, there's different kind of gradients. There's linear gradient, there's radial, there's all sort of gradients. So there we go, radial gradient, and so many others. So we are interested in linear gradient. So what a linear gradient is, it linearly creates this nice gradient, right? Which is what we want. All right, so I'm going to use that first one here. And of course, it requires colors. Notice it doesn't say color. It requires colors, and it says here it's a list of colors. Why is that? Well, when we want to create a gradient, that means we need to have at least two colors, right? The starting point and the ending point. All we need to do is pass an array of colors. So to create an array of colors, just put there our square brackets. So the first item we're going to add here is going to be the first color. So I'm going to say color. Again, I could say colors dot and get white or any of these predefined colors, but I'm going to show you a different way to actually invoke or initialize new colors from hex numbers. So in this case, I'm going to say color, and then I'll have to initialize with the color I want. Now it says here it requires an int value. This is where we will need to have a hex number, right? A hexadecimal number. You've seen this before. Usually starts with something like 0x. Okay, this signifies this is a hex number, and then we can put something like 00, F5, F5, F5. So this is a white. Okay, so that's the first number. And what you can do, you can just go online and say hex numbers, and you can see all sort of different ones there. There we go. That's the first color. And then, because it's an array, put comma there. I'm going to say color again. I'm going to pass the second one. Okay, and it's going to be a little bit different. So instead of 00F, let's see, I'm going to get rid of all of that and put two Fs like that. So FF5, F5, F5 like that. Very nice. So now we have our gradient. So we have two colors. Those are the two colors that we create our gradient. Get first color to the end color. Okay, so now that we have those colors, we need to specify the begin and the end of the gradient. So where do we want the gradient to start? From where, I should say, we want the gradient to start. Well, there is indeed a property we can pass, which is begin in this case. Well, I want the alignment to be from top center. That means if this is the gradient we're creating, it's going to be top center from that and goes down. That means then if we have beginning or begin, we have end. Indeed, I'm going to use alignment, and I want this to be bottom center. Very good. And then I'm going to add a height, because remember, I'm still in a container, right? So we need to pass a height. That way, the actual gradient can be shown. That's very important. So the height in this case, I'm just going to say about 80. If you save that and go back, and all of a sudden you see this awesome gradient showing up here. Notice that how different things look right now. Just because we have this nice gradient here, it looks a little bit more professional and enticing. Just because we've used gradient. I hope you can start seeing how to really craft amazing applications, user interfaces using Flutter here, because just because we added a box decoration and instead of image or anything else, we decided to put a gradient and we specify from where we want to start, the beginning and end, and voila. Of course, you can change these colors if you want and see what will happen, but just look what we're doing here. It's pretty cool. And just like that, you've learned a new widget called linear gradient. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to look at radial gradient and see how will that change. All right, just a little exercise. Go ahead and do that, and I'll see you in the next video.